Quote of the week: every opportunity to practice anger is also an opportunity to practice patience. Welcome, everybody. It's Jason Barlow, RMT, and I'm here as your therapist and as your coach to help you transform your stress, tension, and pain into health, happiness, and vitality. Welcome this week. Every Monday, I share one of my favorite quotes, and this one is exceptionally powerful if you remember it, if you apply it. Every opportunity to practice anger is also an opportunity to practice patience. I've trained myself enough. That's why I went to the every opportunity to practice patience part. It takes practice and it takes patience for yourself to learn this idea of every opportunity. When we could go to an angry mind, we could actually practice patience. Oh no, like, I want to get angry. If I don't get angry, then I don't get what I want. You got to recognize, why is it that you get angry in the first place? You're only getting angry because either you're getting what you don't want or you're not getting what you do want. And just check that in your daily life. Does that apply to you? Yeah, actually, when I get irritated, frustrated, angry, it is because I'm not getting what I want when I want it. Or I am getting what I want, not when I want it. And so every opportunity in which we are able to engage in an angry mind, and if you haven't yet already today, just be patient, because you might find there's opportunities beckoning around the corner. We just never know what's going to come up in life. Have you noticed that? Now I'm here as your therapist and coach to help you transform stress, tension, and pain. Stress in particular, though, where is most of that stress actually coming from? And we usually point the finger outside and go, it's her fault, it's his fault, it's their fault, it's the kid's fault, it's the dog's fault, if only the car would operate. If we always point the finger outside. Now within Buddhism, and this is something I've been studying for almost 17 years, is there's two types of problems. There is an inner problem and an outer problem. And the outer problems, they never stop. I've talked about this on a previous podcast episode. Just search it up. You only have two problems. Outer problems are many. They'll never stop. They keep coming. They come in clusters. They're countless. And we can solve those with the help of others, with tools and with hands. But nobody's going to come directly and help us solve the real problem, which is our inner problem of unpleasant feelings. So when an outer problem happens, typically, inner problem then comes straight after, because we get irritated and frustrated. As my kids like to say, they get triggered. Oh, that triggered me. It's a common term that's being used in the Barlow household right now. When they get triggered, what they're saying is, my brother did this, or my brother didn't do that. And as a result, inside now, I, myself, am getting a triggered response. I'm getting an unpleasant feeling. And it's that unpleasant feeling that's the real cause of our problems. Because if we didn't have an unpleasant feeling at that time, would you agree that we would view that experience very differently? Now, it's human behavior to almost go straight instinctively to, frustrated mind. We've done that since we were babies, right? We're not being fed. What do? We cry. It's almost like a human instinct. And that's why it takes a lot of patience on your behalf to learn this art of training your mind to go down a different pathway. And that's why a lot of people give up. They start to do some meditation, for example. They get so frustrated because the mind is so busy, because that's really the only time they've noticed how busy the mind actually is. And they go back to the default of becoming or making themselves distracted. The next Netflix episode, the next whatever it is, pick your choice. You go to find something that typically is distracting you away from the real inner feelings, which are the real causes of your daily problems. And if you solve those, it's like a mountain being lifted off your chest. And I'm here to share this with you as your coach, to say it's possible. And let me share a quick story with you. I remember it was probably about 8 years ago. We had a wicked storm. It would have been, probably March or April time of year. Don't forget, I'm here in Canada. And we had this downfall of I think it was hail first, followed by rain. And it was huge amounts of rain. So much so that I just finished with a patient and I work from my home. She just left, and I actually grabbed an umbrella. It was lashing that. I said, I'll tell you, I'll walk you to the vehicle. So I walked her to a vehicle, came back. So in that time frame, which was maybe 5 minutes, I came back to my treatment room, and it was filled with water. It was like an inch deep. I was like, where did that even come from? every opportunity to practice anger or to develop anger is also an opportunity to practice patience. Fortunately, I was familiar with this teaching, and I'd been meditating regularly enough that it was fairly prominent in my mind, because at that time, I didn't get angry or irritated or frustrated. Now, I don't share that with you to impress you. I share it with you to impress upon you that it's absolutely possible. And I'm coming from experience. So 1 inch of water, I'm walking around and it's soaking the rug, the rug that I've got in there, and it was coming closer to the carpet that's on this side of the basement floor. So I run upstairs, I tell all my kids, everybody needs to come downstairs, bring towels as fast and furious as you can. And so we got that going, and then kids had drifted away. I was patting that down. I was due to the next patient, I had to cancel them. And in the midst of this, then one of the kids comes running down and says, Elijah's choking. So I had to drop what I was doing here, run upstairs. I think my wife was out at that point for whatever reason. I ran upstairs, and as I was coming towards him to slap him on the back and deal with the choking child, he actually had coughed up, and it was this little plastic toy. I think it was one of those Kinder eggs, and I don't know why, but kids do some interesting things at certain times, don't they? And he'd put it in, and he'd swallowed it, and it got stuck, and he was able to cough it back up. So once I knew he was okay, I said, listen, buddy, if you want to come back downstairs, come with me. I've got to go back downstairs. I got to deal with this problem. Outer problem. I didn't say that to them, but that's what I was dealing with, was an outer problem. But all the while, I was attentive to the fact that I wasn't actually getting an inner problem. And so that was an opportunity for me to put into context what I'm sharing with you today of practicing patience. See, when we activate patience in our mind, we don't necessarily call the outer problem a problem anymore. We actually can label it differently and go, now this is an opportunity for me to practice patience. Because if we're truly trying to find more happiness and health and vitality in our life, we've got to learn to transform these problems, because they're going to keep coming. And so this is a very opportunity to do that. When the problems arise, that's our opportunity to practice virtuous minds, practice patience, practice love, practice compassion. Without these people and without these situations coming into our life and challenging and testing us on a spiritual level, how are we ever going to practice what we might read in some great books, right? All about the mind of patience. I'll recommend this to you at the end, but it's called How to Solve Our Human Problems by Geshe Kelsang Gyatso. And we all wish for a life to be filled with popcorn and fireworks and getting what we want all the time. And as we know, it doesn't happen like that. Now, this is a message I have to keep sharing with my kids every day because they still have those expectations of getting what they want all the time. And I think that's most every child, right? And a lot of adults too. So when we're not getting what we want is usually when the mind of irritation and anger is most likely to come up. So what I'm imploring you to do with this quote this week is just recognize, first and foremost, recognize when someone or something has triggered you. So recognize that, and then recognize that it's an inner problem. So there's two parts to that. Recognize when you get triggered, and recognize that that trigger, that unpleasant feeling is coming in your mind. That's all I want you to do, is just recognize that actually happening. Then if you want to go to the next step, you would want to then start to reduce that feeling, because it's almost like walking into a room and you see this little tiny flicker of a flame that's the beginnings of a fire. And if you quickly go over and stamp it with your foot or blow it even with your breath, you're going to put it out. But what happens if you don't take action at that time? You've recognized it, but you didn't put anything to take it away. So if you recognize, that's great, but you've got to actually reduce it. Because if you don't, with that little fire that was starting in the room and you just ignore it, it's going to burn more, it's going to expand, and it's going to take over. And that's what happens. That's what's happening on a global scale when the mind of anger takes over and it gets to such a huge inferno in our mind. It's very difficult to control it at that time. You almost just have to let it burn out, right? And so the purpose of meditation outside of that infernal mind is then to harness or bring more familiarity to your mind with the antidote to the mind of anger, which is the mind of patience. And Geshe Kelsang Gyatso is a Buddhist meditation master, and he's got a collection of books I highly recommend. You can see most of them on on this side, actually on my shelves here, all the way across. And this particular book, How to Solve Our Human Problems, was all about resolving the mind of anger, and most importantly then the antidote and how to apply it. So if you wanted to go deeper into that, get that book, How to Solve Our Human Problems by Geshe Kelsang Gyatso, because the second step to what I'm recommending, you got to recognize it, is to reduce it. And you reduce it by applying the mind of patience. Instead of going and full on in fight and flight mode, you can go accept. And then it's not a matter of accepting and going, don't do anything and just let anybody walk all over you. Or somebody comes to harm you, just let them harm. That's not at all the practice of patience. The practice of patience is a state of mind. You still got to take appropriate action. But would you agree, if you had a mind of anger and you had to retaliate, that would be fueled very differently than if you had a mind of patience and you were to apply an action at that time. They have two very different motivations, and the outcomes would be very different too. So ultimately, guide your mind, watch your mind, and remember, every opportunity to develop anger is also an opportunity to practice patience. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found that of benefit today. If it has been and you've got any comments or questions and you want to go deeper, just hit me up. You got messaging, you've got comments below, and let me know, and I'd love to share some more information with you. If you're in the local area where I am, Okotoks in Alberta and Calgary area, if you just go to our website, which is meditateincalgary.com, you can find out more about these books. You can find out more about meditation and how that tool can serve you with your achievements of health, happiness, and vitality. And remember, your muscle health is my #1 priority. Thank you for joining me. And if you've not had a chance, go get my book, because I go into this in more depth too. The 15-step playbook for pain relief. You can go to my website, jasonbarlowrmt.com, and just leave me an email. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys tomorrow.